In our modern world, communicating to anyone across the world has been the easiest it's ever been. We can send a message here in America to a person in Asia, Europe, or Africa and get a response from them in mere minutes. But there's still one thing that divides us all, and that is a language barrier. So today, I will try and convince you to take another language right after the speech. I know it's a big ask, but by the end of the speech, you'll see why you should take another language. Currently, I already know Spanish and I'm learning German. And I know how hard it can be, but hopefully you'll see why learning another language can be super beneficial to you. You'll see in this speech what the actual definition of language is, why you should learn one and the benefits of learning one, and how you're able to do this right after the speech ends. So the actual definition of language is actually fairly simple. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it perfectly. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, language is a systematic means of communicating ideas or feelings by use of conventionalized signs, sounds, gestures, or marks having understood meanings. Basically, that means language is anything that can be understood by others and be performed by you. There's many different types of languages. There's spoken languages like German, French, or Russian. There's non-spoken languages like Braille or sign language, and there's even computer languages like Python. Learning language, or the definition of language, is fairly simple, but actually learning it is really hard. So you may be asking, why should I learn a language? All you said for the past 2 minutes is that it's hard to learn. Well, here's my first reason why you should learn it, and it's a big one. We all want more money, and learning a language can help you earn a lot more money. And that is because if we think about it, let's say we have a guy named Greg, and Greg works in the real estate agent and he knows Swedish. An employer would pay a lot more to have Greg on his team because he's able to outreach onto a wider audience. And this happens in other professions a lot of time. And this happens in professions everywhere. You have accountants, you have lawyers, you have fast food employees who would all benefit from knowing another language, and an employer would pay more to have you on. And maybe you already have a job. Maybe you work in a lab as a scientist, and all your scientist friends already know English, so you don't need another language. Well, learning another language can actually help your brain in ways you've never thought of. And that is because learning a language can help strengthen your brain. They do this by, whenever you learn a language, you have to think. And whenever you think, you work your brain out, just like your biceps or quads. And research backs this up. According to the Glossika blog, when a bilingual person speaks one language, the areas of the brain responsible for the other language are also activated. These types of changes may prevent age-related mental decline enough to delay diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. These two are horrible diseases that can happen to any of us. But learning another language can help us dealing with those even when we're not speaking that language. You could be speaking English and working your brain out at the same time because you know another language. But there is one more reason I feel like that we should all learn language. And it's bigger than just stuffing cash in your wallet or training your brain to be as strong as a rock. And I think it's pretty simple, and that's connection and love. I assume most of you live in America, but there's only 300 million people living here. Compared to the whole world, there's around 7 billion people. And I know most people in the world learn English as a second language or learn it through school, but for those who don't, you don't know if they can be a flourishing friendship or a lifelong relationship. And this has affected me personally too, because my girlfriend of 2 years has a grandma that lives in Germany. And ever since I've learned that, I've been trying to learn German so that one day I can come to her and speak in her own native tongue. Most of you probably aren't in the same situation, but even then, you don't know who could be just around the corner after you learn a new language. So hopefully, after those 3 reasons, you would want to learn a new language. And now I'll tell you what I think is the best way to start and learn a new language. I want you, after the speech, to look up whatever language you want to learn on YouTube and watch that tutorial for however long you want. And then afterwards, I want you to change whatever viewing platform you look on. It could be TikTok, Netflix, Hulu, and just watch a few shows. These two can help you by learning the basics through the YouTube videos, but then help you learn the ins and outs of the language through watching the content. And the people at Rosetta Stone put it wonderfully when they say that listening opportunities allow you to learn more about history, current events, ongoing traditions, and contextualize the nuances of each language. So, and I've seen it personally too. I already know Spanish, and I've seen it in many Spanish speakers that whenever we say an E word, we usually have an S sounding sound, like an español. We would never know this, or you would never know this by solely watching YouTube tutorials. You would be able to catch these nuances through watching the movies or the shows or Instagram reels. But at the end of the day, doing both will help you boost your chance of actually learning the language and doing everything I've done, or doing everything I've said in the past. So in conclusion, I want all of you, after the speech ends, to go look up a YouTube video and just start learning any language you want. And then after you learn the basics, you should just watch some content on it. You'll learn it eventually, because learning languages just doesn't come as rapidly as some may say. But eventually, you'll learn the language that you always would desire. Thank you.
Very good.